In the silent hallways of the psyche, where the deepest and most primitive bonds intertwine like invisible roots, there is an archetype that resonates with ancestral force, the mother. She is not only a biological figure, she is symbol, she is shadow, she is portal. And when a son crosses the threshold into adulthood, something profound happens. The bond changes, or at least it should change. However, many times it doesn't. Why? Because where there is love, there can also be attachment. Where there was once protection, control can arise. And where there was once nourishment, manipulation can settle in. This is not an accusation, but a deep observation from analytical psychology. As Carl Jung once said, what is not made conscious appears in our lives as fate, and in the case of many mothers with adult sons, that fate is often marked by silent conflicts, hidden resentments, and bonds that, instead of liberating, bind. Today, I want to speak to you not as a therapist, but as an observer of the human soul, and I will do so with respect, with depth, but also with clarity. If you are the mother of an adult son, these are 5 things you must avoid if you want love not to become a prison, and for the relationship with your son not to turn into an unconscious battlefield. 1. Don't confuse love with possession. Love, in its purest form, sets free, but when the wounded ego enters the picture, love can become demanding. He is my son, my blood, my creation. Yes, he is. But he is also an independent being, a soul with his own destiny. Many conflicts between mothers and adult sons arise from an invisible trap, unconscious identification. Jung described this process as a psychic fusion, where the mother does not see the son as an other, but as an extension of herself. If he suffers, I suffer. If he distances himself, I disappear. But that is not love. It is fusion, and all fusion, no matter how warm it may seem, ends up suffocating. Your son is not your life project. He is not the container of your unfulfilled frustrations. He is not the actor meant to perform the script you could not complete. When you love him, let him go. When you understand him, don't bind him with guilt. When you trust him, don't manipulate him with fear. 2. Don't rescue him from his own destiny. There is a temptation in motherhood that persists even when the son has grown, to protect him from everything, from his mistakes, his relationships, his decisions. But Jung said that the soul needs experience to grow, even, and especially through error. When you step in to prevent his pain, when you try to spare him every fall, you are depriving him of the most sacred process of adult life. Learning through confrontation, I understand. Watching a child suffer is heartbreaking, but even more destructive is keeping him from developing his own psychic muscles, because the son who never makes mistakes on his own never matures. And the most paradoxical part is this: the son who is always rescued ends up feeling guilty. He feels indebted. He feels his life doesn't belong to him. Don't rob him of the chance to build himself. He needs to make mistakes. He needs to cry. He needs to ask himself questions. And you need to trust that his soul knows the way, even if it doesn't look like yours. 3. Don't criticize his process or compare it to your version of success. Every mother has dreams for her child. Some are noble, that he be happy, at peace, fulfilled. Others are subtler, more egoic, that he be successful, that he turn out how you expected, that he achieve what you couldn't. This is where you must be careful. Every time you criticize his choices, his partner, his career, his lifestyle, you are sending an unconscious message. As you are, you're not enough. And that hurts more than you think. Sometimes you do it out of love, but remember, the unconscious doesn't hear what you say. It perceives what you emanate. Your adult son needs validation, not judgment. He needs to feel respected, not corrected. He needs to feel seen, not evaluated. Jung spoke of the danger of projecting onto children the parents' unintegrated contents, and one of the most common forms of projection is comparison. At your age, I already had 3 kids. When I had your job, I was already a boss. Back then, people worked harder. This does not teach. It paralyzes. Your son lives in a different world, with different challenges, with a different inner time. Your task now is not to direct him, but to accompany him, not to push, but to support with your presence. 4. Don't victimize yourself if he distances himself. This point is delicate. Many mothers feel that once adulthood arrives, their sons drift away. They no longer call, they no longer share, they no longer need, and it may be true. But the way you interpret that distance will determine the quality of the bond. If, faced with his distance, you respond with phrases like, "You don't care about me anymore. You never have time for me. When you were little, you did love me." You are not expressing pain. You are manipulating from the wound. This is not conscious, of course, but its effect is corrosive. Because the son feels that, if he's not constantly present, you suffer, and then his freedom becomes your pain. The result? He distances himself more, or stays out of guilt, not love. Jung said that every healthy relationship needs a symbolic death. The son must symbolically kill the mother as an orb figure. Only then can the adult emerge. And you, as the mother, must allow that psychic death for a new bond to be born. One of mutual respect between equals. Real love does not demand constant presence. It feeds on freedom. 5. Don't forget yourself. This is, perhaps, the root of all the others. Many mothers, when their children reach adulthood, experience a void. There is no longer someone to care for, to solve for, to guide. And now, here arises the risk of channeling all the energy that once went into your child, into their adult life. There appears a desire to continue being indispensable, necessary, irreplaceable. But that is not love. It is fear. Fear of facing yourself. Fear of asking who you are beyond the role of mother. And without realizing it, you may become a demanding figure. One who constantly calls, who gives opinions about everything, who demands visits, attention, responses. Not because you're bad, but because you are disoriented. Because no one taught you that motherhood also has a process of individuation. Jung said that the second half of life is dedicated to returning to the self, to reconstruct your identity beyond social roles. Being a mother was, and will always be, a part of you, but it is not your totality. What would you do if you weren't waiting for his call? What would you dream if you weren't living through his life? What projects have you postponed for years? What pains have you not yet healed? When you reconnect with yourself, something magical happens. You stop pressuring and start inspiring. Your son no longer feels he must carry you. He feels he can admire you. And that transforms the bond at its root. Dear mother, this is not a call to guilt, but to awareness. To look honestly at your wounds, your fears, your attachments. To remember that true love does not control, does not demand, does not impose. True love guides and lets go. It embraces and releases. Your adult son needs his space, but you need yours too. And in that space of your own, in that reconnection with your soul, you will find not only peace, but a new way to love, free, mature, luminous. As Jung said, separation is not the end, it is the beginning of a new unity, more conscious, more authentic. Let him go so that he may return, not as a needy child, but as a free man, not as your extension, but as a soul sibling. Because the bond between mother and son, when healed, becomes something sacred, and the sacred is never imposed, it is only honored.